Hello friends, I'm Irisa and I'm here with some more biochemistry of toxins. Today's toxin is botulinum toxin. Way back in 1895, almost 40 people were paralyzed and 3 died, ironically after attending a funeral. The culprit, a delicious preserved ham. Belgian scientist Dr. Ermengem courageously apprehended the ham and from it isolated some gram-positive rods. These turned out to be C. botulinum, a gram-positive spore-forming anaerobe. It's just any old bacteria by itself, but when it produces spores, via sporulation, it leaves behind this nasty little neurotoxin called botulinum toxin, shown as these red triangles. These toxins cause the sickness known as botulism. So what does botulism look like? What I want you to remember is symmetric descending flaccid paralysis. It starts at the head and affects the cranial nerves for bulbar palsy and works its way downward through the body. So some of the first signs you might see are blurry vision, difficulty swallowing, before it progresses to weakness and full-on respiratory failure. Death can occur. Botulism can occur in different ways, but in the adult patient, one of the most common is the consumption of contaminated food. When the bacteria sporulate in your gut, they release the botulinum toxin, causing botulism. The food classically associated with botulism is home canned goods. So how does botulism cause all these nasty effects? It all comes down to the process of vesicle fusion. Let's shrink down to the microscopic level to look at the neuromuscular junction. The signal that makes muscles contract is ACH. The motor neuron keeps ACH stored inside vesicles. When signaled to do so by an upstream action potential, these vesicles fuse to the cell membrane and release their contents into the neuromuscular junction. On the other side of the synaptic cleft, ACH binds to receptors on the muscle cell, signaling the muscle cell to contract. Put this together and you get a functioning neuromuscular junction. Now let's look back at the motor neuron that releases the ACH. What makes the vesicle fuse to the membrane? The major player here is the snare protein complex. There are two parts, the V snare on the vesicle that wants to fuse and T snare on the target membrane. In this case, the target membrane is the cell membrane of the motor neuron. These two proteins interact to dock the vesicles and initiate fusion, which releases the vesicle's contents outside the cell. Now here's where botulinum toxin comes in. Botulinum toxin will actually cleave the snare protein so that the vesicles can't dock. This prevents the release of ACH into the neuromuscular junction. Without ACH, the muscles don't get the signal to contract, and no muscle contraction means flaccid paralysis. Now it's time for a fun fact. Tetanus toxin works in a pretty similar way, only tetanus toxin targets the snare proteins on inhibitory interneurons instead of the motor neurons. That's why tetanus causes spastic paralysis instead of botulism's flaccid paralysis. Botulinum toxin isn't all bad though. It turns out being able to cause flaccid paralysis can be pretty useful. For example, you can inject a toxin into the facial muscles to get rid of wrinkles. This is Botox. But wait, wouldn't flaccid paralysis make you even saggier? Actually, Botox is injected into the muscles that cause wrinkles when they contract, such as temporalis. It's like steaming a shirt. Relaxed muscle means no furrowed brows. Botox will work on wrinkles that are caused by contracting muscles. It's not going to give you a facelift. Botox is good for more than just making Tom Cruise unable to squint though. In fact, it was originally used to treat strabismus by injecting the extraocular muscles. Nowadays, Botox has found a wide variety of medical uses, from muscle spasms to bruxism, that's teeth grinding, to possibly migraines. So thank that original ham because it turns out botulinum toxin can do a whole lot of good.